the story of the 16-year boy who, but the question is, how does a naked boy, whose parents left him in his childhood, go ahead and make him as the most expensive brand? Not at all. Rolex is a brand that in government World War I, it puts its soldiers on Rolex's watches because at that time, only their watches were so precise that they could properly attack a place. With it, the first Mount Everest climb, Tenzing, Norway, and Edmund Hillary also were riding Mount Everest and wearing Rolex's watches. Many people don't know that. That. Why is this car so expensive? Why is this car so expensive? How did this boy do this big achievement? To answer all these questions, please raise a pop-up and enjoy this amazing documentary. Hans Wilsdorf, March 2nd, 1881, was born in a place named Germany. Wilsdorf's two brothers and sisters, they were happy with their family. But in 1892, when Wilsdorf was 11 years old, then his life completely changed because this year, because of a disease, their mother's death was gone, and after it, their father's death was gone. At the age of 12, Wilsdorf had been an adult. Wilsdorf's parents had. This school's name was Ernstium Coburg, which Wilsdorf's uncle had sold, and they had put these three brothers and sisters in Bavaria. 13. Wilsdorf was alone in that school. This school was Ernst and Coburg, which was in Bavaria. 13-year-old Wilsdorf was in that school's hostel, where the rest of the children's parents would come to meet them. Wilsdorf always lived alone. Every kid would joke on this. Wilsdorf had very few friends. That's why Wilsdorf had made his studies a friend. Maths and English, they were very good. These skills were going to be very useful. In the school, Wilsdorf got a Swiss boy who had. He told Wilsdorf that there are a lot of industries that make watches. Wilsdorf was very happy with this, and he had decided that in life he will definitely go to Switzerland. After school, at 1900 hours, Wilsdorf was in Geneva, Switzerland, shifted. They took apprenticeship there. This company, Pearls, had to export. Wilsdorf wanted to work in a watchmaking company, and they had this dream soon. When Wilsdorf, this dream was soon. When Wilsdorf, his friend, helped him to get a job. This company was named Kuno Cotton, which was the largest watchmaking company. Here, Wilsdorf was a clerk who was doing a work, and he would get every month around $40. Wilsdorf's work was to wind pocket watches. Actually, that time, men would buy pocket watches, and wristwatches were only for girls. Everyone thought that wristwatch is a jewelry, which is only for girls. With this, all these watches had a problem. The problem was that there were springs in all watches had a problem. The problem was that these all watches had a Wilsdorf. When he was still in the showroom, he had to get up and walk the whole time, so that that watch kept going for a day. And once you walk, that watch kept going for a day. With it, if you were to move, then the time of the watch was completely moving. Wilsdorf, whenever he did the winding of his watches, he always felt that he could make a very good, precise watch. When Wilsdorf was 20 years old, he had to serve in the military for 2 years because at that time, their country was mandatory. When Wilsdorf was 22 years old, he shifted to London, where he met a girl who was Florence Francis, who was also their wife. Until this time, Wilsdorf had learned how a company works and how a watch is made. In 1905, Wilsdorf had opened a company, Alfred James Davis, and named it Wilsdorf and Davis Company. They took the existing Switzerland's watch, and they were to be closed in England. But Wilsdorf, as much as he expected, he didn't sell them. Many customers, he came to know that, because their name was Wilsdorf and Davis, which was a German name, so people were not buying them. At that time, many people hated the German name, and they didn't want to buy them. In 1908, Wilsdorf had quickly changed his company's name and kept Rolex Watch Company Limited. Rolex was a premium name, which caused their sales to increase. At this time, Wilsdorf was spending a lot of money on his research and development, so that he would make a watch that was very precise and kept moving in the water. In 1926, he had this dream completed and made a masterpiece watch, which he had named Rolex Oyster. Because it was like an oyster, it was waterproof, which was the first waterproof watch. Even after making this amazing watch, many people had a doubt that it could not be a waterproof watch, because all of them's watches, even a drop of water, were getting worse. But for this, also, Wilsdorf was ready, who at that time, their competitor company, could not even think. Wilsdorf had an important point, that just one perfect product is not enough. They have to tell a story that people never will ever forget. And Wilsdorf did exactly the same. In 1927, Wilsdorf had a chance, which a lot of people were thinking. There was a girl named Mercedes Gleitze, who was a very amazing swimmer. This girl said that she'd have a cold English channel that had been passed. People laughed a lot on it, and everyone said, "This is impossible." This girl said, "Okay, I'll show you this channel again." Wilsdorf, as soon as the thing came, he went to Mercedes, and they convinced him that whenever he swim in the English Channel, he will wear a Rolex Oyster. Even though this girl, in this attempt, did not get to the English Channel, but what Mr. Wilsdorf wanted was done. The Rolex Oyster watch was working perfectly. Wilsdorf did not miss the time. They went to London Daily Mail, and a full-page ad, which they announced that Rolex Oyster, the wonder watch that defies the elements. This was not just an ad. It was a story that people wanted to hear. But Wilsdorf didn't stop here. He was thinking that people would need to see this themselves. They had put in London's shops, fishbowls, where the fish, along with the Rolex, their watches were in the water. When people looked at these watches, they would be surprised how these watches are still working. After, when the sales increased, then Wilsdorf, in 1953, found that two legendary figures, Tenzing, Norgay, and Sir Edmund Hillary, were going to go to Mount Everest. They also gave them their watches. When they both got to Mount Everest, they became first climbers. Then on their shoulders, they went to Mount Everest. This was not a simple climb. This was not a small news. This was history. Rolex was on every step with these climbers, with zero temperature and intense pressure. They had once again proven that this was a watch for legends. Wilsdorf knew that these moments. Wilsdorf knew how to use these moments. Wilsdorf had again published the success of Everest's news, published everywhere. With it, in 1935, the race car driver, Malcolm Campbell, had broken a world speed record. He was driving a car at 300 miles per hour, and he had a Rolex watch. Campbell, who was going to go for precision, they gave a very big statement. In this statement, he said, "When I'm driving so much speed, I need something that I can fully trust." And Rolex, that's the watch. First, they got a lot of certificates. First, they got Swift Certificate of Chronometric Precision. After that, London's prestigious Key Observatory gave Rolex wristwatch Class A Precision Certificate. Because of all these marketing and certification, Rolex became a premium brand. World War I. The watches were not just a jewelry, but it could save millions of soldiers were. Soldiers who even had to coordinate their attacks, for which they needed very precise watches. If a soldier's battalion's watch was showing a different time, and the other battalion who was standing far away was showing some other time, then they both will never be able to attack an enemy. This movement, the government, took a decision that they would give Rolex's watches to their soldiers, whether it be it's a mud or a Gungarish. With the help of these watches, soldiers will be able to synchronize their movements. Government's Rolex, with their faith, its sales will increase. Rolex Oyster had a fire, but Wilsdorf wanted to do something better.